Hey everybody, we just wanted to welcome you back to our channel again. We thank you so much for watching the first video. We had great feedback and way more views than we thought we were going to have. So thank you and welcome.
Great to see everyone here. I say that, but it's really, I'm just looking at Billy. We're really excited to do this. One of the pieces of the feedback we got is I didn't really do a great job of introducing myself. So my name's David, and I've been in marketing and ticketing for the last 10 years on the Las Vegas Strip. I've got a variety of experiences. I actually met Billy at Cirque du Soleil, where I've met actually quite a bit of people that are still near and dear to me. So we have a varied experience. And we're looking forward to continuing with the show.
Yeah, great. And like David said, we met back in Cirque du Soleil. David, I don't know if you remember, but one of the first times I remember is you were on the phones and I was actually in the ticket office, and you would call and you would help book reservations for people from a corporate standpoint from Cirque du Soleil, and I was in the ticket office side of it, just making sure it was fulfilled. And that was the first time I feel like we got to know each other, and then we started working for Cirque du Soleil directly together. So my background. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. We actually met both in ticketing, right? I was in the corporate ticketing for Cirque, and you were at the box office you opened the Mirage, and you went over to Aria.
Yeah, I believe that most of our interaction was at Aria with Viva Elvis. I don't remember talking to you as much over at Love.
No, I think I basically came in with Viva Elvis, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah. So a little bit about me, we've kind of touched on it a bit. I've been in the entertainment, I guess you could say entertainment industry since I graduated from college. I fell into a job. I was looking for something to do after college. I didn't know what I was going to do. My dad knew somebody at Bellagio. I was an usher at O, and that quickly evolved into working in the box office at O. And from there on in, I had quite a bit of time working at MGM Resorts. Then I eventually went to work for Cirque du Soleil. That's where David and I really got to know each other better because we were on kind of similar teams doing things. And then from there, I just went off onto a career of sales and operations. So, that's kind of our experience and what we know. So when we talk about, entertainment and sales and things like that, these are things that we live through year after year. So we're really trying to give our experience with all that.
Cool.
We hope that you watching this, from, like I said, the feedback that we got was amazing. We hope that we're giving you information that's helpful to you. We think that some of this is going to be really interesting to people in the industry, but we also want to make it interesting and, informational enough and small enough that it's not too much for people that are out of the industry to enjoy. We had an opportunity to talk to somebody earlier. Her name's Michelle Dillard. It was a great conversation. She's in charge of conventions, catering, and food and beverage for Caesars Entertainment across the Linq Promenade, as well as Citywide Entertainment.
Hey everyone, it's David, and I'm here with Billy, and we have a very special guest, Michelle. And I'll let her do her own bio so she can speak better to it than I can. But we're going to sit here and we're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, a little bit about catering, a little bit about sales, and kind of how they all blend together and what the Super Bowl and what this weekend typically means for Vegas. So hi, Michelle. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what's a little background? What do you do? What's your job?
So just a little background. I've been in Vegas since 1995. I came here to finish my degree at UNLV and kind of just stayed. So I actually started out on the food and beverage side, or actually hotel side for a short stint. And then I went to food and beverage for multiple years, switching over into sales probably in about 2003. And that's meeting sales, catering sales, event sales. They kind of all blend together. But so my background is pretty extensive, even with just the Vegas background. I literally grew up in the business. My parents had a ski resort in Oregon for 27 years. So it kind of felt like a natural progression.
Your current title, you're the director of event sales for Linq and the East Coast Citywide sales, right?
So Linq Promenade. I do for Linq Promenade. I actually do like large buyout events. So that would entail groups of 1,000 to 10,000 people that want to utilize the Linq Promenade as event space. So basically like a block party or a street party. About a year and a half ago, I was given the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, which actually sits on the Linq Promenade as well, to develop their private event buyouts in that venue.
Real quickly, tell us what the Linq Promenade is.
So the Linq Promenade is an outdoor retail. It's open to the public daily. And we just have expanded on that to, which actually also leads to our new Caesars Forum that's located behind that area as well. So that area is actually known for the observation wheel, the high roller, and it's currently the largest observation wheel in the world until Dubai is done. And we've got 28 pods that are located on that wheel. Those pods get up to 40 people. And with a bar in them, they'll do up 5. So they're pretty roomy. I know from a distance, they don't look that big, but when you're up close, they're actually quite large.
What was a typical day for you pre-pandemic?
So pre-pandemic, I was actually not even on the catering team. I worked in conjunction with them. So my day was putting out proposals for large group buyouts for the Linq Promenade, selling sponsorship and branding locations within the Linq Promenade, and obviously promoting and selling Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club as a private event venue. That is a partnership with Jimmy Kimmel, and obviously it was built as an entertainment venue, but we knew that there was opportunity to utilize that space on either days before they opened or days that there was no shows. So events is like doing a jigsaw puzzle. So, I mean, during the middle of COVID, I actually, there was a decision made, because I worked so much with our catering sales team, to actually move me within that team. And so I still currently do what I was doing previously. Obviously, we aren't doing large events like that now. But obviously we are hoping within the next 6 months to a year that we'll get back to somewhat normal levels. And so now I also handle, as a catering sales manager, I handle the East Coast. But I mean, honestly, right now, social leads are like the number one thing. Weddings, reunions, birthday parties, bachelorette parties. Those are the inquiries that we see the most coming in right now. Typically because, with our current restrictions, we can do 25% capacity or up to 50 people, whichever is less. And those social groups tend to most of the time be at or below that number. So they're much easier to accommodate, with a few little changes because of, the current mandates. So obviously masks and social distancing and no dance floors currently, but we're hoping in the near future that'll change. We've had a lot of people when this first started in March of last year that had to postpone, move dates or whatever, and literally both from a corporate standpoint and a social standpoint. I mean, every hotel is still in the process of moving, rebooking, and trying to make sure that, especially weddings, I mean, those ones are the most difficult because, I mean, the dates they pick may have a significant meaning, or, and it's a very social event.
Describe the role that catering plays within the structure of the properties. Does it live on its own? Is it part of food and beverage? or does it work in conjunction kind of as both?
Well, we obviously, it's separate on its own. We work more with the meetings and events team. So, and that's what we fall under. So, I mean, by definition, it's basically events or meetings that don't require a lot of hotel rooms. And we get lucky because we get to utilize a lot of unique spaces within the properties. So it makes things a little interesting, but it's still pretty much a close-knit team, even though, let me back up a minute. With regards to food and beverage, usually it's the same chefs. So you have a vice president or a director of food and beverage or culinary operations, that typically being a chef. That chef is usually over the team members on either side, whether that's a banquet or function space chef or a food and beverage chef. So like there is some crossover with regards to how that works.
Gotcha. And is that the chef that would essentially be approving menus, ensuring like they're kind of doing the operation day to day to ensure that the
ultimately yes, but at the properties themselves have they have input in their own stuff. Sure. Obviously with the being multiple properties, it does confuse it can confuse clients. Like they might not realize that, for example, the Flamingo is part of Caesars Entertainment, but so is Caesars or the Linq. They don't realize that that's all one parent company. So we have tried and are trying to keep our stuff streamlined so that it doesn't matter which property you're at, you get this very similar or the same offering.
Do you have any numbers or any way to kind of like quantify what the Super Bowl means to Vegas?
Sure.
We won't ask specifically for property or anything like that, but just
no, and I wouldn't even have that information right now. So, well, but I do know that
it's basically a holiday. This is like we shut down shows. I'd probably say, Billy, 90% of shows are closed for private functions, for Super Bowl viewings, or just because it makes no financial sense to run a show during this time. Right. So what is the financial impact on it in Las Vegas?
So what I can tell you with regards to Super Bowl in 2019, there's a company here in town called Applied Analysis, and they do stuff all over the board for Vegas. I mean, they even do stuff clear down to tell you how many views on a billboard you might get. However, their analysis from 2019, we had over 310,000 people coming in for Super Bowl. And that overall impact financially for the 3 days, maybe 4, PC people may have extended it, but I did base it on 3 days, was over $425 million. So
what are the expectations for this weekend?
Well, if I had to make a guess, let's just look at it from the standpoint of what our limited capacities are. So let's just say that 25% of those numbers come in. I mean, looking at all the other things that have impacted Las Vegas over the years, Las Vegas was one of the cities in the country that bounced back first. Like what would normally take a city 2 to 3 years took us a year. So, I mean, it's really hard to predict right now because obviously in our lifetimes, there's never, ever been another pandemic. So yes, have we had tragic events that have affected us as a whole? Sure. But we've never had anything like this. I mean, you're talking 50 plus years in Vegas, no hotel has ever been closed down the way that we were closed down in March. So.
And to give like a greater, I guess, context to pull back a little bit, like the Super Bowl kind of represents kind of a restart, right, to the year, since New Year's Eve for everyone is big. It is huge. It's where everyone makes so much money. Entertainment makes money. The bar must make a ton. It's just a wild 7-day party, if not longer. Right. And then it just kind of like everything dies for about three or 4 weeks. We have some major conventions that come here. CES obviously is the big one. Those are all private events. Those are all booked very privately. So a lot of entertainment suffers. A lot of staples tend to not really be around. This is what usually when you see a lot of shows go dark. So January tends to be a little bit of okay, it's not as great since New Year's was up here, January's here. And Super Bowl is kind of like we're starting to like hit back into that season again, right? Like that's an important thing to remember about what the Super Bowl tends to be, at least. It's kind of the first big weekend in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean it's different because if you look at it, New Year's Eve, Super Bowl weekend, Valentine's Day weekend, like those things are more of a social type leisure weekend. So the nice thing about Vegas is normally with between those leisure events and our conventions, like it layers itself pretty nicely. So like we have starting with CES normally in January, New Year's Eve, CES starting right afterwards going into these major conventions. So literally the town is hopping between leisure business and corp and convention business, usually from January until end of May, maybe first week in June normally, with the slower time being a little bit and wherever Easter happens to fall.
Mhm.
But I mean, typically that is your slowest time during, but the leisure business and the corporate or the convention business layer itself nicely, so that's why we are typically always booming during those times.
So thinking about like your career and just kind of taking us out of the moment. What is your what's a standout event for you? What's something that you're the most proud of?
Well, I mean, luckily I've been able to be very creative in my position with Linq Promenade. So we've had some super fun events that have been challenging, but actually really fun to see come to execution. We have a huge tech company that did the event twice. And at that point, I worked with a counterpart on the catering team to execute that and plan it out. But it was 9,000 people. So the group bought out from High Roller all the way up to, we have a fountain that sits in the middle of the promenade. And that we put a stage on, and so it was actually very cool. So they bought out the restaurants, they bought out the retail stores, and then created unique experiences in each one of those places so that their attendees they could go into different places and they were experiencing completely different things.
What would be the capacity of the promenade?
So I can tell you that during pre-COVID, we were getting anywhere during the week of about 60,000 visitors through there a day. Weekends, you're talking 85 to 100,000 people per day. Yeah, we added a bridge during that whole construction phase, which makes sense because that road is busy back there, and trying to get across those crosswalks was a little hectic. So now people don't even have to really worry about it. I mean, obviously we have multiple lots back there, so there are still a few that require crosswalk, but for the forum itself and the Linq Promenade, like they wanted to treat it like it was a campus.
Overall, I mean, is there interest already for next year and the year after? Are those the kind of leads that you work with? Yeah.
Like literally there's still stuff that we're trying to rebook and find homes for. And I didn't know that's coming from every property. From things that when we did have to close down.
Thoughts on that? Do you see it just kind of coming back overall, or do you see a lot of companies going virtual?
Obviously keeping your pulse on what's happening in the industry because none of us really knew. But it is funny because a lot of surveys came out starting, a couple months in and you saw it going one direction, going, oh, we think it's all going to go virtual. By the time we were 6 months or so in, then you see that those people wanting to do face-to-face meetings actually coming up more as they're sitting at home more, and they've been on 100 Zoom calls in a month or however many it is.
So we wanted to say thank you so much for jumping on and doing this for us. We really appreciate it. Your information is amazing. You have such great information, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
So the Super Bowl, pretty big deal, right? I mean, It's absolutely wild when you think of what entertainment represents in Vegas, and for 90% of entertainment to essentially close down for a day. Generally speaking, shows are running 7 days a week in Vegas. Every show has its off days, uh, but I'm pretty sure, I think that's a fair thing. The shows with lower overhead, it makes sense for them to still put on a show, because if they have in live entertainment, it's really all about fixed costs. If you get those fixed costs down, you have a lot more to play with. Bigger productions like Cirque, it just doesn't really make sense when you're not entirely sure what your occupancy will be that night. And I think, moreover, if you're MGM, Cirque's partner, you actually want to use those rooms and probably sell Super Bowl viewing tickets. But I think the Super Bowl is just like this really incredible one-off weekend. I mean, I don't think it compares to the New Year's Eve weekend that weekend, but it's pretty close. I mean, we're seeing 500,000 people easy on New Year's Eve. I think so. It's just wild to think what the Super Bowl does, how it kind of displaces everything. But yeah, it's like wild. I mean, the Super Bowl is a crazy thing. Whether you like football, or you don't like football, it is an incredible impact that it has in Vegas. You see a little bit of everything, right? Like, you see the people that are here to gamble, they're here to do the bets, they're here to drink and watch. They're here to. I've actually with my tour company, I've actually had people in their groups of like 10, 12, 15, and they got a really great suite at one of the hotels, and they're just gonna get their own booze, and they're gonna drink it up and have a real party.
It's funny because I actually haven't thought about it in a while, because I would have normally been prepping for it, to see how we're going to maximize and everything. And, and I know you felt the same way, but for years, that clientele comes in, they're paying a premium price because room rates, things like that, all are at a premium during that time. So you definitely have a clientele that can pay for a ticket, but they don't. During that game, there's no way of capturing them. During that 2, 3, 4 hours, before and after, different story. During that game, nothing. Like you said, it becomes an event. It doesn't matter. You could hate football, but you love the commercials. You love the party. You love the mingling that it is. You may not watch the game at all, but you're at that Super Bowl party. You're at that event because you want to have a good time at it. So it becomes more than the game.
Attended, I think it was at Westgate. It was one of their massive convention halls. And it's just so many. There's so many people, and I don't know if it's just like coronavirus in my head right now, but I'm just thinking, man, that's just a lot of people to have in one spot. But there's something cool about being in a lounge and watching the game, and you get a variety of people cheering for different things. I remember being one of the smaller ones I attended. There's a guy cheering. He wanted everyone to lose, which is impossible. But every time someone got hit, he was just there to see people suffer. He's like, I don't have any skin in this game. I want to see you guys just suffer. And that's the people that it attracts. It's a lot of fun.
Heard it to today, what's happening now. And, it's down a bit. They're running at smaller capacities, of course, because that's the mandate. So, where you could have sold, just for sake of numbers, 100 spots to something, you now have to sell 25 because it's 25%. Right. How they're dealing with it, because how do you deal with the egress of even if you have, I don't know, 30 ballrooms and you have 20 people in each one, you're still going to have hundreds of people going in and leaving at a similar time, because there's no way to stagger the time of the Super Bowl. It is what it is, So it presents a lot of issues, and none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know how successful this year is going to be, but it's both hopeful and a little bit scary that is proceeding this year, that it seems like we're at a point that they're wanting to have that. So I hope that they do it very cautiously and very safely, because I do feel like this could pave the way for some entertainment options to start reopening. If we can do these things safely, if we can have a successful Super Bowl weekend and we don't see numbers spike, that would be amazing for the entertainment. At least the way I feel, that would be amazing for the entertainment industry. And it would be a little bit of a blueprint of look what happened and look what could happen.
There's a lot of feelings and passion about this, because the entertainment industry in Vegas is huge. The number of jobs, just the people, I know we've touched on that so many times. I think there's this feeling of what the hell, you know? So you can show up at a restaurant or a lounge and people can gather. Why not do it for a showroom, you know? To your point, if we don't see a spike and we have what would be considered successful Super Bowl weekend, I do think that does pave the ground for entertainment to be coming back. Because, I mean, it just, you mentioned like egress and all this kind of stuff, and it is true. How do you do that? How do you stagger that? You know, if you have 1,000-seat showroom, even if you're only selling 250 of that, well, that's 250 waiting at the box office. That means probably more e-tickets, right? That's fine. I think 99% of all software at this point can do that. Fine. But how do you get people in? You know, do you stagger times and say, hey, you got to be there 1 hour before the show or you don't get in? You got to be there 15 minutes before or you don't get in. And how do you enforce that? Are you really going to kick someone out after they've paid? You know, it really brings up a lot of questions to how it can come back. And without touching too much on what kind of seems like an unfairness as to that bars can host these kinds of events and showrooms cannot. Yeah, definitely a lot of conflicting feelings there.
Listen, I want it to be a safely successful Super Bowl weekend, 100%. Could you pay me to go to any of those parties? No, I don't want to be there. I want to look at it. I want to analyze it. I want to see it on TV and I want it to be successful, but I don't want to be there. And I feel a little bit hypocritical. Like I'm not going to put myself at risk. And that's just a personal view that I have. And I do think there's people that feel the way I do.
There's enough people, I think, that feel the exact same way you do. Like, well, let's wait and see because I'm interested, but I want to see what happens. I certainly don't want to be a statistic, you know, when nobody does. I also think there's people that would say, I don't care. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go out. I want to try it, and I'll adhere to whatever restrictions there are. And I'm sure there will be a good number of people that are safe, you know. It's a really complicated issue, unfortunately. And I don't think anything will tell except time, you know. And I do hope that everyone having your Super Bowl celebrations and all this does come out on the other side safely. But yeah, it's complicated because you can't help but look at those things and then say, well, why are other things not open? You know, but again, that's a whole other conversation that I don't want to get too into because it just won't be productive because we have no say in it. We have no choice but to hear about these things anyways. I saw you sent a list of big game parties.
I totally want to talk about that. The way I broke it down for everybody watching is I looked at the places on the strip, like strip and downtown, because I feel like that's its own entity. And then from there, then I looked at a few places that were off strip, because for those of you that are watching, you know, those might be something that you want to do and you might want to check out. There's actually a couple places on there that are like my favorite like restaurants or one that I want to go to again. And so I'm going to enjoy talking about those.
What's your favorite restaurant on here? Which ones are you liking?
Sienna's Italian restaurant. Have you been to Sienna's?
I have not.
Sienna's is amazing. My favorite that I had there was the stuffed bell peppers. It was really good. I've had eggplant parmesan. It was really good. I'm Italian, so you know, a good Italian restaurant always kind of strikes my, you know, my taste buds.
Have you been to Honey Salt?
I have not.
I had brunch there once. It was really good. But this is one of the more reasonable packages. It's like $170. So this is obviously offshore. This isn't Summerlin, if I remember correctly. Feed 6 to 8 fans. And we'll just compare that to here's Guy Fieri's Vegas Kitchen Bar that starts at 200 plus per person.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay 200 plus. Something more local, like I would say too local. It's like a chain, but Gordon Biersch is starting at 55. It is funny to see the pricing on the Firehouse subs. That's why. Oh, they just have a special. You can't just go there and watch.
I know. I saw that too. I just listed a few, but it was like Caesar's Palace, the property, not the company. That property, they have a couple. They have Cafe Americana, Alta Bar, Venetian. They have Buddy V's, which is the TV show that like the reality show Buddy V's Cake Boss, and then Black Cap. Planet Hollywood and Miracle Mile, Cabo Wabo, and I know there's multiple other options at Planet Hollywood. You have Top Golf, which is, I think, a really cool option. And then you go downtown, and I've talked a lot about Circa. I'm excited about it. It's a fun new property. They are having it in 2 locations, at least from what I can tell. They're having it at their stadium swim, which you can actually sit in the pool. You have a whole wall of video that you can watch while sitting in the water. So it's a very unique experience. And then they also are going to have it in their sports book.
Okay, so the pool party at Stadium Swim, which is the Circa, fans can soak in the sun at the country's largest pool destination for sports lovers. 6 temperature-controlled pools, 2 swim-up bars, which is always fun, and 143-foot diagonal 14 million megapixel LED screen. Sounds fun.
I mean, it sounds so
cool.
I
gotta tell you though, as I'm hearing, like I'm reading this and it sounds amazing. There's a swim-up bar and that's cool, but like, how is that okay during these times when we can't go watch entertainment? I get it, but
I didn't really have a category for it. Was the Area 15. It looks so cool. They're going to have a fun, immersive experience with food from Todd English. That sounds so cool. And, it's just a lot like Circa that I'm excited about Circa. I'm excited about Area 15 because it's a very unique experience. Oh, and I did want to put out there that I'm going to be very brave. And I was invited to a networking thing for Circa in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I'm going to go to take a tour of it. It's going to be my first time there, and it's going to be cool to see that. And I was also invited to go to experience Area 15, not for Super Bowl, but just to experience it. So maybe I'll take some video of it and I can have it on one of our future videos.
Yeah, great.
I'm excited about those 2 things.
Yeah, those are 2, and I think those are 2 things that have opened during the pandemic. Area 15's been open, I think, a couple of months now. Their anchor tenant, Meow Wolf, I think opens this month. I always forget the date. So it's going to be a really cool, really interesting thing. And that's immersive probably for the first actual time in Vegas. Every show was using immersive for the last 3 years. But you're still sitting at a chair watching other people do things. Whereas Area 15, I think most tenants are actual physical. You can get in and actually do something. Like Meow Wolf, if it's anything like the Santa Fe one, will just be a whole world that you can explore under the guise of a supermarket instead of a house, I think. So that'll be cool. I think Area 15 has a bunch of other, I think they have a whole other portal kind of experience, and they have the axe throwing, they have a whole thing. They also have, like you were saying, the Super Bowl special, which I don't fully grasp. I haven't been there yet, so I don't grasp what Area 15 looks like. So I don't know where they're having like a Super Bowl viewing party.
One other place that I found really interesting when I was looking at this list was Burnt Offerings. Have you heard of Burnt Offerings? It's a restaurant that's like off strip. It seems like a very local place.
I'm reading it and I'm into it. It says subs, wings, chips, fries. I'm in.
We're going to give a link to what we're talking about right now so that all of you can see this list. And what I loved about this list, I mean, we're going to be putting this video out right before Super Bowl. So I know a lot of these places require a reservation. So you're probably not going to be able to get in last minute. But a lot of these things are cool things to do outside of Super Bowl. I found an article in the Review Journal about, and by the way, I did want to mention this. I did pay for a subscription because if any of you know, you can't view the article. I guess that's smart or greedy, however you want to look at it. You can only see the first few sentences of the article. If you want to read the rest of it, you have to subscribe. So I felt like doing this show and everything, they offered me this great deal for the next 2 months. It's 99 cents a month. So I was like, for 99 cents, I might as well get it. But if anybody out there watching wants to give me and David a free subscription for a year to the Review Journal, give it to us. That'd be awesome. It was about the gaming board control. They're going to really be monitoring these events. They put precautions out. They've warned that they don't want these large events to happen. So if all of these properties are doing it, they have to follow within the guidelines. So we definitely touched on this earlier, but it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do that, how strict the gaming board control. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to all work and how serious it's going to be. I think that's going to be for a future video for us to kind of decipher how Super Bowl happened, how it went, how these things, I mean, we're talking about these things now. I want to follow up and see, like, you know, did they all comply and it was all great? Did they not comply and we had some issues that some of the properties had? Did the numbers spike? Did they not? You know, it's going to be interesting to see all that afterwards as well.
Right. No, absolutely. I think, and I just don't know how they're going to be monitoring this. It's one of those things where you say, well, we don't really want you guys to do this, but you're like, well, I mean, so you do want us to do this, right? You're kind of encouraging the properties to say, well, I mean, there's restrictions, but I can do it. If they truly didn't want to do it, the gaming control board is essentially the final word here in Nevada. So if they didn't want it, they could have just said no. You lose your gaming license, or it puts your gaming license in jeopardy if you choose to have any kind of event. And this is kind of, it goes back to that bigger conversation of what we're doing in Vegas, right? Like, how is that being managed? How are these things okay, but other things are not? They're not really being regulated in the same way. My guess would be if there's a spike or they see something wrong, then the casinos will get they'll get fined, you know. But I don't think, because at the end of the day, I mean, these casinos that are running right now are essentially the only real things bringing in this tax revenue to allow us to continue to function as a state for the next year, you know. So how do you really close that down? If it's open, do you close it? No, otherwise they would have closed it, right? It's an interesting conversation. I am curious to see what our COVID numbers will be like here in 2 to 3 weeks, to see, since we've been on a downward trend, to see if there's a spike in 2 or 3 weeks. If not, I mean, I guess we can make assumptions about the safety and protocol being followed. And if it does spike, then I don't know. I don't know where we go from there.
I know. So the last part,
I don't know that I'm in an emotional place to handle like another severe spike, you know, like
not at all.
Like, I can see the end is near, and now I just would probably have another breakdown or something.
Yeah, no, totally. If they're able to do this in mass amounts, why can't the shows start to be given, you know, safety precautions to reopen at numbers that they're going to be able to be profitable? So it just makes me, it unfortunately, it makes me think of the other side of that coin, the other side of, you know, all of that entertainment industry that you and I are part of that is not open and is not able to open. And we're scratching our head wondering why, like you had said earlier.
I guess just reiterating the complexity of it all, because on the surface here, my gut is like, well, this sucks. Like, there's a lot of people that are unemployed right now. But at the same time, we also don't have the same level of visitors coming to Vegas. So yes, well, JJ can tell us, hey, the comedy club is selling out. Well, that's cool. That's a 25-seat room. So what about these productions that need at least 100 to 250 to break even, let alone make money? You know, it's a complicated issue, right? Because like, why can certain things be open? Why can't entertainment? We are very good at what we do, and a lot of the people that get hired in entertainment as project managers or stage managers or any kind of coordinator that has to wrangle all these artists and stagehands, are very good at what they do. And if you give them protocol to follow, I guarantee you they will ensure that it's being followed. I guess what's missing is protocol and the opportunity.
Well, we wanted to say thank you for watching our video, and we really appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to spend it with us and to hear, you know, what we have to talk about. Don't forget to like our video, subscribe, turn on notifications, give us comments. That's the one thing we didn't get anywhere from our last video, was there was no comments on the actual YouTube video. I got a lot of comments on Facebook and through my friends that I asked to watch it, but I would love to get comments from you, especially if there's anybody out there that's watching that we don't know. If you just found us, please engage with us, talk to us. We would, you know, love to hear your thoughts and, you know, how you found us and why we're interesting to watch and listen to, and to subscribe and to get notifications on from it, everything. So thank you.